Hi everyone, thank you so much for checking out this video. If you're new here, my name is Stephanie and I cover oily skin, hooded eyes, and beauty. So welcome back to my eye primer wars. Today's episode 9, and if you're watching this in the future, I will link all the videos down below for you. So I will be testing out 10 drugstore eye primers for your hooded eyes, and for each of these primers, I do want to test them to see how well they work when being set with a setting powder, and then how well they work without being set with a setting powder. So let's go ahead and get into eye primer number 9, and that's going to be the Makeup Revolution Prime and Lock. So this eye primer claims to be lightweight and creamy with a subtle beige tint that balances redness and discoloration on all skin tones to make your favorite eyeshadows pop. I tested this primer out for 2 days and day 1 is my first impression, so let's roll the tape. Today's day 1 and I have nothing on my eyelids, so let's go ahead and get into the eye primer. Smell test. Okay, so I briefly smelt paint, but I don't really smell it anymore. Here's what the primer is looking like. It feels silky soft, and I love that there is a tint to it. This feels really, really smooth. I'm just gonna be putting the eye primer on the right eye, so that way I have a side-by-side comparison on how well the eye primer is working. Okay, so here's what the prime side's looking like now that it's dried down. It doesn't really look mattified, and the tint that I saw in the swatch isn't really there. This is kind of transparent. Time to set the primer. Now let's go into the eyeshadow. Okay, that's looking pretty nice. Let's go ahead and get into the blending process. Here's where the true test lies. Want to make sure that everything blends together. There's no skipping, there's no tugging. And it's actually looking pretty nice. I don't see any patchiness or anything like that. I do see the smallest bit of tugging, but I can tell that I'm going to be able to clean that up. Just going to deepen up the outer thirds really quick. Okay guys, that actually did not take long to blend out at all. This eye primer made everything so easy to blend out. As you can see, there are no harsh lines, there's no skipping, no pooling or anything like that. This is looking amazing, and I love how just soft and subtle this looks. But the only thing that I'm missing is the vibrancy. Out of all of the eye primers that I've tried out, this is definitely not the brightest, not the most vibrant, but let's just go ahead and do the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. Now that I'm done with the rest of my makeup, let's go ahead and take a look at my eyes. Okay, so I am loving this eye primer so far. Everything just looks so smooth and just so seamless. Like I said earlier, vibrancy is definitely not here, and you can tell from looking at both of these side by side that it's just not very vibrant at all. But let's go ahead and do a close-up so that way you guys can see. Okay, so let's look at the non-prime side first. This is looking pretty okay today. It's not really looking patchy or anything like that. It's just, not vibrant, and there's just nothing special about it. Okay, so now the prime side is looking so good. It is looking so smooth. There are no harsh lines. I just really, really would like that vibrancy. Alrighty guys, it's been 10 hours, so let's take a look at my eyes. I'm looking in the mirror here, and I don't really have eyeshadow on my eyelid anymore. I feel like whatever was on my eyelid just kind of went all into the crease, like this crease down here, because yeah, there's just nothing really left on my actual eyelid. And today it wasn't really that hot. Like it got into like the mid to high 90s. It's really not that bad today. So yeah, let's just do a close-up so that way you guys can see. So here's the non-prime side. Just like I said, no eyeshadow on the eyelid. I have eyeshadow that has grouped in the crease of my eye, like right here, and everything else is just not looking very good. And as you can see on the prime side, it's almost looking like the non-prime side. It just looks like it held up just a little bit longer. Today's day 2, so let's go ahead and give this eyeshadow primer another shot. And as a reminder, I'm not going to be setting this with a setting powder. I'm just gonna go straight into the eyeshadow. All right, this is definitely way more pigmented than day 1. Now for my favorite part, the blending process. All right, so this is looking pretty good so far. I don't see any skipping, I don't see any patchiness, so I'm gonna go ahead and deepen up the outer thirds. Okay, so far I'm really liking this. Whenever I did go just a bit heavy, I was able to kind of smooth out like the outer thirds, which is what I'm really, really liking about the beginning of this eyeshadow primer. But let me go ahead and do the rest of my makeup, and then we'll do an even closer look at everything. Alrighty, now that I'm done with the rest of my makeup, let's go ahead and take a look at my eyes. So comparing my eyelids side by side, I am actually liking the non-prime side just a little bit better than the prime side. The non-prime side just looks a little bit smoother. Everything looks just blended out just a little bit better than the prime side. The only difference is the non-prime side is just not as vibrant as the prime side. Now, I'm not saying that the prime side looks terrible or anything like that. I just think that the non-prime side looks a lot better. But let's just go ahead and do a close-up so that way you guys can see and be the judge. Okay, so here's a close-up of the non-prime side. Like I said, this is just looking so good, so smooth, so soft. And of course, the only thing that I'm missing is the vibrancy, but you know, my skin can only do so much. Okay, so here's a close-up of the prime side, and it's looking good as far as vibrancy goes, but when it comes to looking soft and smooth, it's just not as great as the non-prime side. It's been 10 hours, so let's go and take a look at my eyes. Okay guys, so I'm looking in my mirror and it just doesn't look any better than it did yesterday, which was day 1. I don't really have eyeshadow on both of my eyelids. It has kind of gone like in the crease, like in here. And I do of course have my eyeshadow from my outer thirds and then my actual crease, but yeah, that is about it. So let's go ahead and do close-ups that way you guys can see. Okay, so here's the close-up of my non-primed eyelid, and I'm sure we could all guess that this is just not gonna look good after 10 hours. And then here's a close-up of my primed eyelid, which is kind of looking like my non-primed eyelid, but just a little bit more vibrant in the color that is left there. So this has been my least favorite primer so far. I love the application process. I love the blendability, even when I didn't set it with the setting powder. And if you know, you know. I always need to set my primers. It doesn't matter, but this one did so good. It just didn't hold up like all the other primers in this series. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that your makeup needs to last 10 hours, but it is nice to know which makeup products need to be touched up every few hours. I do feel like I got a good 5-hour wear out of this eye primer, and for some people that's all they need, and that's completely fine. But I feel like if you have extremely hooded eyes and especially oily eyelids like me, I just feel like this isn't gonna cut it. I could not count on this eye primer. I don't want to be going into the bathroom and touching up my eye makeup every few hours. I don't think that it's worth the $6, and I really don't think that this is hooded eye approved. Now, I do have a question for you guys. How long do you need your eye primer to last you? Also, do you mind touching up every few hours? If you guys like this video and if you like this eye primer, go ahead and hit that like button and hit subscribe. That's gonna help out so much. And thank you guys so much for watching this series. I have one more episode and then we will get to the best and worst of the eye primer wars. So definitely stick around for that. So thank you guys so much for everything. Yeah, thanks.